Okay, I see people joining. All right, that's great. So, hi everyone. Welcome to our Crush the SAT, your ultimate prep guide webinar. Let's discover the secrets to master the SAT test with confidence. If you want to get a high score, no matter what year of high school you are, it's just always the right time to start preparing because it's definitely a big and a very complex exam. So yeah, so today you'll walk away with practical tips how to boost your score and let's go. Um, so we will start with the overview. Oh, this is Laura. She's the founder of our company, EduLead. We're helping people to get into top universities all across the world, especially the international students. We get you from scratch, from zero up to your admission. We provide the full consultancy, so please keep up with us. Um, yeah, just follow our social media, follow our website, and we will be posting about our new programs. We also have consultancy opportunities right now. So just please book your consultation as soon as possible to have your personal way to approach SAT and college applications overall. Yeah, so now we can start with the overview of the webinar. What are we going to talk about? Um, so first, why am I the speaker? Because was I was in your place at some point as well, and SAT was not an easy part for me, and I had to put some work. I had to put a lot of effort and thoughtful preparation to get score as high as I wanted, 1530 out of 1600, and it's considered a good school. It helped me to get into universities that I really wanted to. I got into top colleges across the world in US and in the UK. So now I'm studying at Minerva University. It's a global, the most innovative university in the world, with an acceptance rate like about 2-3%. Um, I also passed IELTS. I also did IB exams. I was rated as a top 3% of my school. I was an edtech startup founder. We raised some investments. We did some sales. As a and in university, I was also winning a lot of hackathons. For example, NASA space apps in Mountain View, because I'm now living in Silicon Valley in San Francisco, and Stanford hackathon. I was interning at a robotics startup. So I feel like I have a lot of experience and I have a lot of tips to share, especially considering that last summer I was working as an SAT tutor and I helped a lot of kids from my country, from Kazakhstan, to achieve the scores they wanted. So I think I have a very full and comprehensive picture of how to prepare for this exam, not from only my perspective, but overall, like objectively, averagely, a good strategies. So in this webinar, we're going to talk about first, what is the SAT exam? Why do you need to pass it? Why does it matter? Then we can talk about the alternative ACT, which is less popular, but we'll see what is the differences. What I expect from the new digital format, because SAT is something that is changing and the format is changing. So compared to even 1 year ago, now it's a bit different. The digital format came, allowing people to pass it digitally. We can also discuss everything about that. And of course, we're going to talk about the best strategies for preparing, including the detailed tips. I'll give you some resources in the end, so you'll have a very comprehensive picture of what it is and how to dive in the process. So let's go. Okay, first we're going to talk about what is SAT and why is it important. And if you have any questions, we can just discuss them a bit later. We will have like a Q&A session. So just let me go through my slides and then we can come back to any of them. What is the SAT? Why is it important? Differences and new digital SAT. So what's the SAT? It's basically a standardized test. It's used widely across many colleges, especially in the US. It's like one of the main academic indicators of you being a very high performing student, you being like intellectually smart and capable. So it is a multiple choice exam, so it's not like you have to write essays or something. The total score is 1600. And as I said, US universities accept SAT, and it's a big part of their admissions criteria. So the higher SAT, the higher your chance to get in. Um, some schools have SAT test optional policy, which means that before everyone wanting to get into US had to pass it, but now if your SAT is not that good, or because of pandemic some people couldn't pass it, especially in different countries, now it's test optional, which means you don't have to, but you are still recommended, because as an international student, US admissions, they don't know what's your academic structure, how does it work for you. So SAT is a very objective international indicator of your academic performance, so it's definitely um, useful, as well as it can lead you to a lot of merit scholarships. So you can, by taking it seriously, you can definitely have some financial benefits, which is also a big part of it. Then there is an alternative, which is ACT. So SAT is focusing on reading, critical thinking, and ACT is more of like fast-paced. It covers, because SAT takes like a couple of hours. ACT is fast. It covers a wider range of subjects, and it's not just critical thinking and reading, but it's also scientific section. It's also different scaling points, and yeah, that's basically it. The math is also broader for the ACT. It is much less popular in different countries. It can also depend on your strengths. You can try, of course, just doing the test optional, like the test materials for SID and ACT, and see which one is going better for you. But I would say SAT is just more common. There is not a big difference like in value, because both of them are estimated or like kind of equivalent, but SAT is just something more popular. ACT might be hard to find the like date or slot in your particular region or area, while SAT is more spread. Okay, and now let's talk about the new digital format of SAT and what has changed. So basically, recently SAT, as I said, moved from paper-based to the digital format, and it actually brings a lot of advantages, because like before you had to go to a center, do all these things, but now you are still going to the center, but now it's like laptop, and instead of spending time, for example, to writing the answers, for marking them in a very like particular way, you have to fill the circles, now it's easier because it's laptop, and there is less, this human error. For example, you could fill like two answers or something, and now it's this human error is eliminated. The main advantages is it's like adaptive, so the test changes based on your answers, and if you're doing good, it could actually speed up the process, and if you're doing bad, you'll get like a lighter kind of questions, and I mean, you'll get the worst score, but it will just be faster than it was before. It's also shorter, so it's like 2 hours and like 15 minutes compared to the previous 3 hours long. Oh, it was even more than 3 hours paper version, because it was hard to sit for 3 hours, and now it's just easier to go through. And yeah, you're still going to a test center, as I said, but now you're doing it not on paper, but on a tablet or a laptop. So yeah, that was like, what is the SAT? And now let's go to the preparation timeline and strategy. So how much time you think you need to prepare for SAT? Well, preparation time varies a lot because for some people, for example, who have a good English, who did some preparation, like um, I don't know who, for example, I did IB program, so our full school was in English, which made it a bit shorter for me. But for my friends who are studying in different languages, it was harder because they have to first grasp the English and like understand all the uh, terms, understand all the vocabulary, and then you are getting to the actual SAT preparation. So it is recommended to dedicate at least 6 months, even if you're at that level that like you have a good English, you have a like I don't know, good critical thinking and you love reading, you still should spend at least 6 months because that's the base. SAT has its own specifications and you have to get familiar with the test format. You have to practice each session like very thoroughly because it's not just one skill that you can get fast, but it's like different formats of text, different formats of tasks. And yeah, you should also build the stamina for your actual test date so that when you come, it will be like another training day and you'll just get your average or like highly above average score, which will make you much less anxious because that's also a common things when people are like when you're prepared early, you will perform better just because you can break up the study process, like, and not just cram everything into last minute. And it will make it much more like straightforward and easier, lighter for you. So I would say just don't stress yourself out, don't make it complex, just start preparing now and you won't miss. If you're doing good, great. If you're doing bad, well, great that you found it out now. Um, okay. And then, all right. Yeah. So another thing why you should why you must start early is that registration for the SAT is not a very easy process. First of all, if you're living in a small city, you have to go to a nearest like bigger city to pass the SAT. So it's like geographical locations. It's also offered on specific dates. So it's not like IELTS, having it every day or every week. It's literally like 5, 6, maximum 6 times a year. I think it's even less than that. So it's not, you have to plan accordingly. You have to plan earlier. And for example, if you're applying this November, then you can't pass the test in October. Because if you fail it, you're not going to be able to book the next one because like the slots fill up very fast. And I have a lot of friends who couldn't, like, they really believed they could just get the first SAT from the perfect score, and they didn't, which is, it doesn't say they're bad. It just says that you didn't lack, you lacked some time, some preparation. It's also fine. But you should do it days, no, days, you should do it months in advance. Um, And then you can also take the SAT multiple times. So, for example, if you're applying in November of 2024, you should prepare in, oh, you should try the test SAT. You should sign up for the October, you should sign up for August, you should sign up for May or April or whatever dates available. I mean, you should definitely sign up and try your best like doing before. Because if you get a high score, well, that's great. You can use it. I think it's valid for 2 years after passing it. And then if you get a bad score, you can do super score. Super score means that, for example, if I try in April and I mess up the math, for example, math section was a bit hard for me, or I got just scared or nervous, so I did well for writing. Well, and then for next time, if I do writing high and math, I just forgot, neglected it, or I was like overconfident, that's okay because your highest scores sum up. So, for example, I got 700 for this test. For April, I got 700 on math. And for the May test, you got, for example, 600 for math, but like much higher for reading, like 800 for reading. you could get the top scores and combine them into one. So it's like 700 for math and 800 for reading, and you will get like a perfect score in the end. So yeah, that's also a strategy, and it also tells you why you should do it, like start preparing much earlier than it is. So the SAT, it consists of two sections. It's math section and English. For the math, it's definitely just like concepts from algebra, geometry, and trigonometry. Um, there is a section where you can use the calculator, and there is a section where you don't have to use not calculator, but you will be able to calculate everything in mind or like on paper, because the calculations is easy. It's more about the critical thinking and math skills. So the key tips here is, first of all, practice, practice, practice. It's because the math is all about patterns, and the more problem you solve, the better you get at realizing like how should I approach specific common types. Because like the math questions in SAT, they have particular format. It's not like they're coming up with a new question for every test. They have a particular format. They will just change the numbers. They will just change the, I don't know, the story, but the format of questions are like usually the same. So the more you practice, the more you realize how tricky they are. Because overall, the math used here is pretty much easy if you work a lot, because this is American math, which is a bit different from other countries. And if you're like international student, it's a highly probably that your math is kind of better in terms of hard skills, but their math is very tricky. So they have a lot of parts where you can just get, I don't know, stumbled upon one word, or there will be just one tricky phrase that could just change your answer completely. And again, practice is the best, absolutely the best strategy for math. Second one is know the vocabulary. So there are like terms like integer, rational number, median. They are very simple and you must know them, but also they have some strategies, they have some specific wordings for particular problems. And if you are gonna spend time first to read the problem, then you're gonna start to translate it in your head. And then if one word will be not translated in your head, then you're losing the whole point, right? You are not doing it right, because every word matters. So just know the vocabulary by heart. It's not that big list of words, just like particular words that you meet in your practice sections, just learn them by heart so that you will be like very automatic to them. Yeah, and the third one is just that be aware of tricky questions. As I said, it's easy in terms of hard skills, but it's all about your ability to analyze, maybe recheck your answers. And for this, I would say the only strategy even I and a lot of my students use is try to read the question carefully. Like, yeah, it seems very easy from the first sight, and then you just like put a number from your head. But the problem is that, as I said, you missed one small letter, you missed one small, I don't know, notice, or you just forgot about a little detail, and it can easily it's it can easily lead you into just losing the whole point, losing the whole problem score. And it's actually a very common thing. So it's not like, oops. Sometimes it's better to spend more time for reading the question and understanding all the tricky small parts of it rather than rushing into solving it. Because if you solve the question that you understood like not in the right way, then what's the point, right? Like, it's better to know, to understand the question by heart, and then it will be much easier. Yeah, let's go to the English section now. English section is usually harder but it's hard for non-native speakers as well as native speakers. It's just like, it's not even about English that much. as about critical reading and writing skills, critical thinking, like being able to comprehend what you're reading. So you will um, need to read passages like some texts and answer questions based on them, spot grammatical errors in written section. So it's basically still multiple choice, but it also tests your hard skills, like knowing the grammar, knowing the vocabulary, but also it tests your critical thinking for the first thing. It's about analyzing the text deeply. It's about your ability to concentrate, to focus, to actually read through the text and understand every sentence. What does it mean? Thinking about what was the author trying to like say by this. Thinking about how is author using this or that word or this or that phrase, and like deep, just digging deeper than it is. It's the actual strategy for critical thinking. Then, secondly, is pace yourself. So, the SAT wants you to read quickly because the texts they're not very long, but they're like perfect amount. If you're gonna like just rush through the text and go to the questions, you're gonna lose the main essence because it's not about the questions, it's about the text. So I would say practice with long and complex texts like those from New York Times or scientific journals so that you could start reading small parts and it will be like easy, very easy for you. And why am I saying, for example, New York Times is because SAT basically takes their texts as like a little chunks or cutouts from like New York Times, from the Economist articles. So when you are able to read like the New York Times article in 5 minutes and tell yourself what is it about, understand everything from one time, that's great. Of course, you can understand the meaning and the essence of SAT short texts. So it's just a very good strategy to prepare. Um, yeah, if you've taken IELTS, the SAT English section is more of critical thinking based. So, like, IELTS is about um, just knowing the vocabulary, knowing the grammar, and understanding what is the author saying. While the SAT requires much deeper analysis. Why is the author saying? How is it is they saying it? And it's definitely not that straightforward. I'll give you a pro tip is that SAT reading is designed to challenge your ability to comprehend information and to analyze it. So without adding your, subjective thinking, without adding your subjective opinion, I would say just forget everything you have in your mind. Do not rely on logic while answering the questions. Only rely on the text. And to do that, you just have to read the read a lot of texts and be able to analyze what does this text tell me, what does it say, why. And as I said, a lot of deep analysis. Just be ready for that. Don't expect it to be the same reading as you did for IELTS if you did one. Um, Alrighty, let's go to scoring section. So um, basically each section, math and the reading and writing one, the verbal section is 800 and 800 as a total score out of 1600. And many schools use super scoring, as I said, so they take your highest score from each section. It could be different test dates, and then you can just combine them into a very high super score. That is how you fill it in the Common App, which is the platform for applying to US colleges. You just basically write your score. For the verbal part, write the date. You write your score for math part and write the date when you've taken this test. They will see how many you've taken if you are providing the tests, but also you can take like 5 of them and you don't really have to think about your first score. What matters is your last score. And I have friends who actually tried to do the SAT for like 5 times. And from the fifth trial, my friend got like 1550, and he got into like a good Ivy League school. So just be aware of this system. And then, yeah, let's do the takeaway summary. First of all, should you take the SAT? Yes. Usually, yes. If you're gonna apply to the US, yes, please. It's actually useful even for other countries. It's not gonna be like mandatory. It's not gonna be something um, very clear and defined, for example, like entrance score. But SAT is just a good academic performance indicator for any person in any school, in, yeah, whatever school you're going to. Even if it's optional, as I said, the higher you score, and why not to try, the higher your chance to stand out, the higher your chance of admission. Plus, your SAT score can give you a merit scholarship, because it's actually one of the criterions for that. As I said, remember that preparation is key. It's a lot of practice, it's a lot of deep analysis of what kind of question is getting hard to you, what kind of question is easy for you, why are particular questions hard for you, and then just realizing how could you work out those things that are hard for you. Um, as I said, taking tests multiple times, so signing up for several tests months in advance will help you to actually improve your score and benefit from strategies like super scoring. And now I'd love to give you some bonus resources. So those are the ones I used for my preparations. Those are the ones that my friends used and that I used with my students while I was teaching the SAT. So basically, 1600 is an like online website with a lot of free and paid materials, just like practice questions, the ones that you won't find on other platforms, a lot of videos giving you some strategies and tips. Books are actually good, especially Erica Meltzer's SAT books. They help you, for example, if you know that, oh, I'm bad at this particular, like at scientific literature, in verbal section, and then it will give you very narrow tips for the specifically scientific literature in verbal text. So whenever you find your area where you are just lagging behind, it will give you a very particular, very focused material for training and getting better at it. The Black Book is another way to prepare. Han Academy, you've probably heard of that. You can pass some more um, training tests, you can get some tips, and yeah. And a College Board, of course. College Board is the main official site where you can register for the SAT, where you can access some actual practice questions, practice tests that are prepared by the official College Board. And the official ones, they are like the most accurate representation. So if you wanna like, first of how would I score in like the actual SAT? Just go to the College Board, find one of their tests, any of them, and just go through it, time yourself, and see how much. And then see the difference between your score and your desired score, and it will give you a good um, initial picture. So, yeah, that's basically it. And now I accept any final questions, and please ask whatever you are unclear about, curious about. I can talk about SAT, and I can also talk about my college admissions process. I mean, like in a brief way. I see one question in the chat from Eltai. I mean, I'm too nervous each time I think about a test. What can you advise? And maybe you did something to calm down. Oh, that's a very common thing. A lot of people are very nervous, and I'm not gonna lie. When I was passing mine, I was like, my palms were all sweaty, and it was like hard to focus, hard to concentrate. It was my first time when I was passing the SAT. I feel like just put yourself in conditions of the actual test. Like put your phone away, time yourself, uh, print, or if you don't want to print, use the laptop and try to pass the SAT, like with the conditions of this. And do it several times. Do it several times. Do it every day. Closer to the date, do it every day, several times a day. Um, one day before the actual test, you should not do anything. Just go for a walk, rest, have some sleep, spend some time with family. But then when you come back on the next day for the actual test date, you will just do it automatically. Like, stop thinking about people around. Just imagine you're in your room doing another training test, and it's just psychologically making you aiming, yeah, like making you more calm. And also to not let um, these things risk your score. Just please sign up for several SAT tests and do it far earlier. Yeah, like just start as early as possible. Yeah. If you have more questions, please ask in the chat and I'll be ready to answer. Thank you. For sure. Thank you for joining. Oh, I see a private message. When can I take the SAT the last time before applying? All right, so if you are applying to the US, in which case you have to take the SAT, it's usually November. November 1 is like your deadline for early admissions, early decision. So if you want to send your score, if you want to be confident, the last time you can do your SAT, I think it's October. You should check it on the College Board site because they have all the dates, they have all the like dates for your particular city. It's usually October because it also takes like some time, quite some time to get the results. Sometimes results come in a month. Yeah, a big thing that they can delay your results. Even though they say it will come in 2 weeks, there are so many cases where your results are delayed and then you have to ask the university, like, please, my results are delayed, blah, blah, blah. It's better if you do it in August. It's better if you do it in May or April. So just be aware of things like that. Thank you. What do you think if I will enter university in 2 years? Do I have enough time to prepare for IELTS and SAT? So, if now you're starting your junior year and then the next year is the last one, you should start preparing like now. Just take your first SAT, I would say in March or maybe even December if you want to try. Uh, but start preparing now. Even if now you don't have the pressure, that's fine. Just like, as I said, now you know what the SAT is, and now you know what are the hard skills needed to ace it. So, for example, reading comprehension. At least start reading the New York Times articles every day. It will take you literally like, just start with one, read it, and then like analyze it, ask yourself some questions, try to go deep, translate and remember every word. And yeah, just be very delicate, be very details oriented, analyze text, and then the more you do it, especially if you do it, for example, on everyday basis, the faster you will the faster you will be able to comprehend, and the easier the SAT prep will get for you. Same for IELTS, because IELTS is mostly just language. So it is very important to think about that if you are going to read a lot, you will increase your vocabulary, you will increase your understanding of language, your listening, your speaking, your writing, your reading will improve. So just at least start doing this. Um, thank you. Thank you. Okay, Akbar is asking, some unis are not asking for SAT, but is it still helpful to have? It is very helpful to have because universities they can give you more financial aid. They can give you more merit scholarships if you will have high SAT, and you will basically have a higher chance of admission. Sometimes not having SAT, it won't harm it, it won't hurt your application, but having a high SAT score would be very, very helpful. Yeah, it's always helpful if you're applying to the US. If I fail my SAT, can I just not show it and still apply to unis where SAT is not asked? Yeah, that's another option. If you fail, as I said, if you fail your SAT, you can just like not apply it. You can just keep it to yourself. You became smarter. Okay, you learned something. If it's a low score, you should check. There are some like websites saying what are the 25th and 27th percentile of SAT for particular universities. And when you have something above 25%, so if you're in the better 75% of your target school, then apply. Use your SAT if you believe it will benefit you. If it is lower than that, just like ignore it. Nobody will ask, nobody will like research. That's totally fine. You didn't lose anything, but if you score high, you will gain a lot. Yeah, the most minimum, you can always just Google that for a particular university. Okay. Thank you so much for the webinar. Thank you so much for joining. And that was it. If you have any questions, please go to our WhatsApp and we will consult you. We'll give you answers and yeah, just give you the whole direction, how to ace SAT and all the others stages of getting into top universities of the world. Thank you so much and bye.